This episode is sponsored by the Cornell S.E. Johnson College of Business. The Cornell Executive MBA Americas program is designed for goal achievers from any industry. The program works by advancing your career without interruption, by providing global perspectives and intimate classroom settings, and by challenging, informing, connecting, and propelling you. Achieve your goals with the Cornell Executive MBA Americas program on the weekend and close to home. Search Cornell EMBA Americas in my city today.
Welcome to the Ellevate podcast, conversations with women changing the face of business. And now your hosts, Maricella Herrera and Megan Oliver.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Ellevate podcast. I am Maricella Herrera here with my co-host Megan Oliver.
Hi.
Hi Megan.
Not much has changed since last week.
Yeah, same here. I mean, we're working really hard to get everything wrapped up for Mobilize Women, which is a little under a month away, which is very, very exciting. So I feel like that's been my focus.
It's like all I've been thinking about.
That's where my head is at. So I don't know.
Yeah, it's and I know everybody is pretty much, my head has been at the History Makers podcast, the new History Makers podcast that I'm doing, and Mobilize Women. And it's just been like my headspace the last, I don't even know.
Yeah. It is not a tradition, but it is definitely a thing that when Mobilize Women is around the corner, our team gets a little bit of a tunnel vision. Look, pulling together a full day conference, be it in person or virtual, is a lot of work. And a lot of places use external sources and vendors who they literally, that's their job, planning conferences. We do not. We do it all in-house, and we do it all as a labor of love in many ways. Yes, it's part of our jobs, but I think the biggest thing about Mobilize Women is we all care about what it means. Mobilize Women is about having conversations that we need to have, but might not be so inclined to have them because they might be a little bit uncomfortable. But that's how we move forward. So our team is very passionate about it. I can speak for myself when I say I'm very passionate about it. And I'm very excited for what you all can get to experience in a month. You can sign up to Mobilize Women at ellevatenetwork.com/summit. And that's Ellevate with 2 L's. And it's free. It's going to be on June 7th, a whole day of sessions, everything from the caregiving crisis to gender equity and climate change to how do we get future proofed in a world that is constantly changing and full of uncertainty. Tons of really great speakers and honestly, tons of really great people you can get to meet because we are a community first and foremost. So we will make sure that there is enough time for y'all to network, to meet each other, to develop relationships with people who are also interested in these critical topics.
Yes. And it's so good. And I can't emphasize enough that, yes, she did say it's free. It's free. There's no reason not to sign up. It's such an amazing list of guests. We're getting more speakers in like by the day. We're getting them confirmed and talking to them. So like keep an eye out on the speakers list because it's ever changing and ever updating. But oh my gosh, we have such an amazing summit planned for you this year.
Yeah. And actually just reminded me, I haven't posted someone else. We got another speaker confirmation. So I'm very excited.
Oh my God. Breaking news, even to me.
Breaking news.
We can't say it on the podcast though, because we have to actually post it on the site.
Well, we have to actually get everything that goes behind getting a speaker done. There is a lot of logistics, not just, the happy part of celebrating, but yes, there are a lot of logistics that need to happen behind the scenes.
Yeah, in case anybody doesn't know, we don't need to go over all of it, but like there's a lot that goes on between, yes, I would love to be part of the summit, confirm me, and them actually being in the, and then actually being in the summit.
Yeah. But it's all exciting. It's all very, very exciting. In the meantime, though, you don't have to wait to engage with Ellevate. You can do so from where you are. How
Yes, you
how
can.
how do they do that, Megan?
They can do that from wherever they are, regardless of whether there's a chapter near them, through our roundtables and community circles. This week's Elevate Roundtable is about maintaining mental strength in difficult work environments. That's going to be on Thursday.
I feel
I
like
have
everyone
definitely,
needs that.
yes, I have definitely needed it before in my career. Holy cow. But yeah, so if that speaks to you, you can tune in from anywhere to our roundtable. And then we have our next upcoming community circle is our Hispanic, Latina, and Latinx community circle. That's going to be next Tuesday, which that'll be really good.
I try to attend every one of those that I can, and I hope you can make it because it is a great, great group. I've been thinking a lot about what we do with community circles and what makes them so special. And I can tell you personally, as a Latina, for me going to that circle, it's like a jolt of energy. It's like that big sigh after the end of the workday. It just feels like I'm coming home in a way. And I'm not saying that because it's only Latin people in the room. In fact, we are all so different because we're humans and we all have different experiences regardless. But it just is, I think, the vibe of the community circles that opens that door for it to be so just energizing and positively uplifting.
Yeah.
So I highly recommend it. If you need just a place where you can take a little breath, come to the community circles.
Yes. And we have more coming up. We have so many coming up. That's just the Latino one is the one coming up in the next week. So definitely check out our website. You can see all of the community circles that are coming up. And if so, we've been talking about virtual events, but if you are in one of these few areas that I'm about to say, we actually have some in-person events coming up. So listen out for your area and see if maybe you can come by and see our amazing community. So, our Philadelphia chapter is going to be hosting an event celebrating women's strength and empowerment at Longwood Gardens. That is on Thursday. Our Atlanta chapter is having, I love this title, can I just say, TGIF, it's wine o'clock on Friday.
Love it.
Like, yeah, 10 out of 10 to, if anybody from the Atlanta team is listening right now, 10 out of 10 on the naming. Absolutely love it. Our Seattle chapter is hosting a coffee meetup next Tuesday, and our Long Island chapter is hosting a beauty, bubbly, banter, and skincare an evening at Aram Modern Beauty Rituals next Tuesday, which again, why are the New York chapters, like New York area chapters coming through with the coolest events after I mean, they had very cool events while I was there too, but like I've left New York and now they're coming out with these amazing events and I'm feeling attacked.
Well, you decided to leave right around
It did.
springtime, which is not,
I did.
you should have left in the winter where everything is kind of dead.
Exactly. It's because it's like mostly in the wintertime, it's mostly like indoor events
Right.
because nobody wants to be outside in the winter. So now they're having all of these really cool like outdoor events or like hybrid events. So yeah,
Yeah. Well, if you are near one of our chapters, please go check them out. If you are not, come check us out online. We have options. So sign up for Mobilize Women, check out our events. Just go to elevatenetwork.com. You'll get all the info you need right on our site.
definitely.
So today, our guest is someone who actually, if you go to any of our roundtables, you might see her there. She is very, very much engaged. Or if you are in the Toronto chapter, you might see her in person. I'm talking about Hilda Gan. She is the president and chief people officer of People Bright Consulting Inc. She helps companies develop strong and healthy HR foundations and leadership practices that help them create an engaging team that takes pride in being part of the company. A lot of what Hilda works on is things she learned firsthand in building a business. And it's really interesting to me how she's set up these principles that she calls Rev Up and how these are great guiding posts for leadership development, management training, and creating teams that are successful. So I have a great conversation with her. I tend to geek out on these topics. So I told her, we're going to talk for about 20 minutes, and I just kept going over. So sorry about that. But I hope you enjoy our conversation. Hi, everyone. Today I'm here with Hilda Gan. Hilda, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. And thank you for inviting me.
Well, thank you for being here. So, Hilda is someone I've met before, and she's part of the Ellevate community and has been extremely supportive, spoken at a bunch of our events. We did a roundtable together a little while ago. And so I'm really excited for everyone to get to know you and learn a little bit about your work.
Thank you.
So let's start with the big old question. Can you tell me a little bit about your personal background and what led you to the work you do today?
So, on a personal note, I am married and I have three young adults now. I have a passion for ballet and travel and swimming, and I'm Canadian Chinese. My grandfather came in the early 1900s, so I'm third generation living in Canada. So when I was growing up, I wondered what I wanted to do. And I was really good at math and science. I know that's a bit stereotypical, but I really loved people and I loved caring about people. So I found myself deciding to become a nurse because it brought out the science part of me and understanding how the body works, and it brought out the caring side of me. So I spent the early part of my career in nursing, and I was an educator because I love to teach, and I was a manager and a director. I even got involved in IT support as computers began to move into the healthcare organization. Then my husband decided that he was interested in starting a company, and that led to a really fascinating journey. We thought, wouldn't it be nice if people loved what they did and loved where they worked? And he's an engineer, so it was an engineering company. And we grew that company on that premise from 2 people to 125 people, 7 offices across Canada. He was the engineer building the engineering business along with the other executives, and I was the operations person building that strong, healthy foundation. And we decided to put our names forward as creating a great place to work because that was our premise. Wouldn't it be nice? People loved what they did, loved where they work. And we were recognized by Best Workplaces in Canada, which is a it's not just for Canada, but there are many best workplaces around the world, United States, Brazil, Japan. And we found ourselves the top 10 2 years in a row. So fast forward, we sold the business, and then I decided of all the things that I love to do, and we had this company for uh, 12 years and 7 offices across Canada. I love the people side. So 6 years ago, I decided to start my own company, and I call it People Bright, and it focuses on helping people create a healthy work culture, to help leaders become more people focused and to uplift and motivate their teams. So that's my passion. I've always loved to help people from the time that I wanted to be a nurse. And now I get to do this for people in businesses.
I really like how you put it. Wouldn't it be nice if people loved what they do and loved where they work? I tell myself that so many times a day, especially as I hear people from the Elevate community who may or may not feel that way.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
So so tell me a little bit about how you started attacking this problem, I would say. Like, I know you were building a business, so you were doing it from scratch, making a culture from scratch. Um, which I think a lot of people, when they're starting to create their businesses, sometimes don't think about, sometimes kind of forget or leave it to like, when we're growing or when XYZ marker happens.
And that's a really good point because what they say is if you don't think about and create the culture. It will create itself. And one day you wake up with 5 or 10 people and you realize that you wanted to create something more positive, but the staff, have created something that you don't even recognize because you didn't create it. So it really is important to think about it. And I think my background being a nurse, caring about people, and having been a manager and really created a place where people felt a sense of belonging, this is what I wanted to do. And this is what my husband wanted to do. So essentially, we started by listening to our staff. We would hire these people. We knew that they had dreams, they had ambitions of what they wanted to do, and we would listen to them. We would listen to their capabilities and match those. So we're nurturing them along. We're hiring people who are what I'll call nice, who
Mhm.
have decent sets of values. And I think as a leader, you always want to nurture that healthy work culture. Well, maybe not everybody. People who treat people as commodities, that's a different thing. But I'm talking about people who really care about people, are trying to nurture that. And I always thought it was, top down kind of thing. Create the culture, create the culture. And then one day I realized that our staff, we hired the right people. We had a foundation, a mission, vision, and values that we believed in, and we nurtured and hired those kinds of staff. And a good anecdote is when we would have interviews with potential staff, they would be sitting out in the reception area, and I'd come out 5 or 10 minutes later and I'd say, "Oh, can I get you a glass of water or, some coffee or some tea or something?" And they say, "Oh, no, thanks. About 5 people have already asked me." So
Mhm.
our people were friendly and welcoming, and I think we created that healthy work culture. And one other anecdote is we created such a healthy work culture, but people would start to ask me in November, I know we have our anniversary party in January. Have you figured out what the date's going to be yet? And so about the third or fourth time when people would ask me, I would say, why are you asking? He says, well, it's because I'm planning a ski trip or a trip in the sun, and I want to make sure that I don't pick the wrong weekend. And I'm going, oh my God, people really want to come to this because it's an opportunity for people to get together on a social level and enjoy each other's company. So my husband were very fortunate and I guess hardworking in creating a place where it was people centric, where people valued each other.
That's that's like so important. I keep bringing up the people centric or human centric approach in the podcast because I do believe that work has changed and it should continue to change and it
Hmm.
should continue to approach this human centricity where you're thinking of people as individuals, where you're taking into consideration their identities, their lives, and putting that together to build a company that people love.
Yeah. And it's I remember the early days of COVID because I find that people think, oh, well, it was, if they want to kind of say, it was easy for you, you started from scratch. Well, no, it's not easy. But it's not that you have to say, oh, well, we can't change it because this is the way it is. You have the opportunity to change. And I remember during COVID that I was doing webinars to help leaders. At first, I thought I would just hibernate like everybody else because we were told we weren't allowed to do any
Mhm.
essential services. We all had to be remote. And then I said, wait a minute, I'm human resources. All these people are waking up now and thinking they have to lay people off or they got to work remotely. How am I going to do it? And I said, I'm human resources. I understand how to do this more than the average entrepreneur. So the very next day I woke up and I said to my team, we've got to do something. And we started doing webinars. And we did over 30 webinars from March to December that first year. It was like crazy. You think about that. That's over
Get
one
tired.
a week. I did 5 for the first 2 weeks. And some of those topics were, about mental health, about work culture. And I said, you have the power now to change your work culture. Show people that you care, and this is how you can do it. Don't wait uh, to till we're coming out of COVID, and I really didn't think it was going to last 18 to 24 months, which is what they said in Canada. I know, in the States, you started back to work much sooner. But I'm a nurse by profession, and I, in my whole career, never saw a, a situation that would require a company or the world to shut down,
Right.
for more than a week. And then I'm a human resources professional. I never in my life had that happen where a whole world would shut down. And they were right. But in my mind, it had never happened before. And I had this knowledge and confidence that they were crazy, but they weren't.
Looking back now, we're all like, oh, okay.
I think companies need to be more and more people centric. And there's a company that does a survey. It's called HR McLean and Company, and every year they poll HR professionals and ask them, "What are you doing? What are you spending your time on?" And recruitment, and this is no surprise, is number one. That much of the time that
Wow.
HR people are spending is in the recruitment, posting, interviewing, that whole aspect. Number two in 2021 was manager training. They've discovered that managers really lack the skill sets to focus on people leadership. Not only did they do that, but during COVID, when they were starting to work remotely and people were having mental health challenges because they're trying to balance work and children at school and elderly parents, all of this, that managers didn't often see that or care about what was
Mm.
going on with their employees. So they started to say, no, we need to invest in managers and do manager training. And that's one of the things I love to do. And I love to see the results when I'm involved in doing that. But in 2022, it moved from second place to third place because people the employee experience moved from number 5 in 2021 to number 2 in 2022 and now 2023. So what it's saying is that companies who want to be successful really need to think about the employee's experience, because
Mm.
if COVID's taught us anything, it's that we want to dictate this, or dictate's a strong word, decide where we want to work. We don't want to work why would we want to come to work where we're not feeling challenged in a positive way for
Right.
personal growth, as well as enjoy the people that we're with? Now, it's harder in remote, but companies really should think about those two things. Teaching their leaders to be more effective leaders, and I'm talking people focused, and to create an experience that has the employee feel a sense of belonging, a sense of value, a sense of desire. And for those who think of people as commodities and look at the bottom line profit, when you combine people leadership with operations, you actually have a better winning formula. If you read Forbes or other financial economic magazines, they're going to tell you that companies that look at people and operations are more have 3 times more profit, 3 times more sales. So for those of you who are thinking that profit is the bottom line winner in your mind, investing in people, creating an inclusive work culture. I'm not just talking about DEI. It's got to be belonging and inclusivity. And to me, it's not so much the diversity and the equity. Those oftentimes are statistics. It's turning the diversity and equity or equality into inclusiveness. And when you create inclusiveness, you create a psychological safety, a sense of belonging,
Mhm.
and that improves engagement, that improves retention, loyalty, and productivity.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I was working on a presentation actually for one of our clients about diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. And this is a company that's starting pretty early
Mhm.
to try and build this culture within their company. And yes, I mean, what you're saying is exactly the same thing kind of I was going at, which is inclusion first, right? Inclusion has to drive it because inclusion is the action.
Mhm.
Diversity is a stat, equity is policies. Inclusion is, you're being asked to dance, not just you're at the dance. It's how you build that psychological
Yeah.
safety. Because belonging then is how people perceive those actions of inclusion.
Exactly. I
And
love how you articulated that. Yep, for sure.
oh, thank you. I'm practicing. Um,
Well, it's very good. Everybody hear what you just say, because that is really, really valid.
but it's a lot of companies don't think about it that way. They're still leading with diversity, which is, I don't know, God, what, the 90s? Like when we were talking
Yeah,
about that?
yeah, yeah. I think, a lot of larger corporations are doing their due diligence. They're
Yeah.
creating it, but they're creating it strategically. They haven't brought it down to the grassroots level. Can I tell you about Rev Up? Can I?
Yes, please.
Yes.
I do wanna ask you about Rev Up. I have so many questions written down for you, so
Okay.
I don't know where you wanna
So
take it.
so my husband and I created, a great place to work, right? And when I started my company, I thought, how do I help companies build that stronger, healthy workplace? How do I help managers be more confident in their leadership skills? Oftentimes they're hired because they're excellent in their technical abilities and their ability to lead the project, but not necessarily the people side of the project, right? And so I thought, how do I articulate what we did? Rather than you say, so how were you successful? How did you become number 9 and then number 4? Rather than spend 20 minutes, I created an acronym, and a word, and the word is rev up. So what I say is rev up your potential, rev up your people leadership skills, rev up your team, rev up your culture. Rev up is actually a acronym for 5 principles that in hindsight helped build iTrans, which is the name of our engineering company. And what Rev Up stands for is 5 values. First of all, respect. Treat people the way they want to be treated. Equality. Treat people in a way that they feel equally important in their role as anybody in the organization. Then valued is the third word. That's, make people feel valued, because when you do, that creates that sense of belonging. Then those are good values that everybody knows about and should practice. The the what I'll call is the secret to really building the culture we created was the uniqueness. And I hinted at that. Talk to your employees, understand what makes them shine. What is the ability and capability, the passion that they have for something, and help nurture that and let them shine. And then take that uniqueness and tap into that potential. So when you follow the Rev Up principles, then you are creating effective leadership, effective relationships with your coworkers. And that's what I practice. I'm teaching people this concept that I created called Rev Up, and I do it through my training with people leaders, with teams, and in all that I do, I'm really looking at people through that Rev Up lens, looking for that uniqueness and helping nurture that positive ability that person has to be the best version of themselves.
I I know we had talked about Rev Up, in one of our events, and I remember that acronym so much. Really, I really do, because it's I think what you're talking about, adding that uniqueness, we talk about the authenticity. We talk about people showing up as they are. We talk about humans and human centric.
Mhm.
And the only way to be human centric is if you realize that people are individuals,
Yeah, yeah.
and that unique talent is what you have to nurture. So I really love that you have that in there.
It guides me in what my work is and what I love to passionately do. A couple of things that I've done as part of the Rev Up is I decided to become a fascination certified advisor. And it's an assessment tools like a Myers-Briggs, like, Strength Finders and DISC. But what I love about this science-based tool is it actually looks at how the world sees you, not how you see the world, which is what most assessment tools do, but it's a form of communicating and how the world sees you communicating. And through this assessment tool, you find out what your strengths are, whether you're a very creative person or you're a very analytical, deep thinker, or you're passionate or a powerful and decisive. And it identifies your top two strengths. And when you know those and you speak the language of your superpowers, then you speak with authenticity and confidence. And when we do that, then people know, like, and trust us. So when I do my people, my Rev Up people skills training, I incorporate the fascination tool as a way of helping leaders understand their uniqueness and how they can be the best leader using their superpowers, not somebody else's or trial and error of figuring it out. And then the second thing is something that's a Google initiative called hashtag I am remarkable. And hashtag I am remarkable looks at helping you self promote, giving you the confidence to share who you are. And it was started off focusing on women because they were, you know, under,
Surprise, surprise.
yeah, it started with women, surprise, surprise. And it's not just for women, because the people who started this initiative realized that quickly it wasn't just women who needed to self-promote. It's underrepresented communities, whether
Yep.
it's LGBTQ too, or it's people of different races and colors and ethnicities. So I decided that, wow, this is so powerful, and I decided to volunteer and become a facilitator and teach this training program. So these initiatives all support that, helping people be unique, helping people be confident in who they are. So this is all part of my Rev Up kind of mentality that I have.
I have so many questions for you. I really do. I have like written 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I don't know if we're gonna get to all of them.
We might need a part two.
But I want to I'm trying to think where to start. Okay, we're talking about training and managers, so I guess I'll start there. You had written in a post today, or not today. I don't know when, but I saw it today.
Mhm.
How managers get promoted to managers around the age of 36. That's
Yes,
the average.
yes. Mhm.
And yet they don't receive, I will say
Yeah,
we,
on average.
don't receive manager training on average until around the age of 40. And I'll tell you what, I'm turning 40 this year and I still have not received any formal manager training. So there you
Wow,
go.
wow.
I don't even know how to ask this. Like, what?
Okay, do you want me to just comment on it then?
Yes, just talk about that,
Like,
please.
think about that. That's 4 years of trial and error, thinking what to do. To it's kinda tragic when you think about it, is that I'm allowed to figure out how I'm going to do it. Don't you think we would have spent time teaching you your technical skills so that you could manage this project? Do you not think that we would have taught you how to be a project manager? But do we teach you how to lead people, to motivate them? If we could spend the time educating managers, it doesn't happen because budget. But when you think about it,
Mhm.
when people leave an organization, you spend somewhere up of an 1.5 times salary if it's a technical person, 2 times if it's a manager, 3.5 times if it's a specialty person or a senior member, because of the time it takes to rev up and get um, immersed in what you can do to be productive and functioning, right? And then replacing the person and advertising, etc. I was fortunate enough to help a company who was a startup. They were doing after school programs, and she had hired all these young people who had no leadership abilities, fresh out of school, 1 to 2 years. And she said, Hilda, these are my leaders of tomorrow. I want you to teach them um, about how to be leaders. And I said, would you allow me to do the fascination? Because if I'm going to do coaching, because she included 5 hours of coaching, if I'm going to do coaching, I need a head start. I need them to know who they are and
Mhm.
and help them develop. And what happened was this person who was very introverted, she's what we call mystique in the fascination language, thought that she had to be more assertive and more telling people what to do. But then she realized, Hilda, I see it. I see how I can be the kind of manager that I want to be, knowing that I'm more um, thoughtful. And she was also innovative. And she knew how to now combine the innovation, creative skills with the analytical research skills to become the manager she wanted to be. So I think it's so helpful for us to spend the time to nurture our young managers to be more effective managers.
So here's my follow-up to that, because I agree with you. Look, I'm 100 and I say I haven't had any formal management training, and by that I mean I haven't had, like, a course or something like that. However, I'm a management nerd.
Mhm.
I devour and read so much about management and business culture because I'm passionate about it. I really enjoy the human psyche. I want to understand it. So okay, we have to systemically shift this. We have to make sure that companies are providing and training and, investing in their future leaders. But in the meantime, what would you recommend to someone who's facing this as like, oh, wow, I'm going to be a manager now. And yet I don't have formal training. And yet, like, what should she do?
So I was surprised when you said you hadn't received any formal training because th- our conversation gives me the impression of a strong manager who is caring, who
Thank you.
understands. Yeah. So that's why I thought, really? Well, whatever you've done has been really good. And sometimes sometimes you start with the basics inside you. You care about people, etc. But I would encourage people to l- look at continuous improvement. You know, the reading, Google can be your educator, right? um, Find a mentor, find somebody that you value and learn from them. I think when I'm in the language of fascination, I'm prestige is my primary, which is the language of excellence. So I'm always looking for continuous improvement, either in processes or people or myself. And I think when I was younger, so here's my tip for you. You're in a career path. Wherever you are in your career path, I used to always take a training program of something, and it can be in Google or online, but take something that helps build your skills. And I'll call them technical, but whatever it is in your profession that you love to do, learn the skills to improve that. And then take one in what I'll call non-technical. I don't like the word soft-sided because it's not
Thank
soft.
you.
It's
They're not that.
non-technical, but learn to be a better people leader, to do something. And by leader, I mean your role as a people leader is to uplift and motivate your team. Find what it is that helps them be more confident in who they are and nurture those strengths that they have. Uh, and I would say if they have a strength but they don't have a passion on it, don't push that. What they need is a strength and a passion, and to do that, because when you're doing work you love to do, it's not work. It's joy. And so the time really passes, and the difficult moments of those really pass as well.
Absolutely. And I think that's right, and, like, find people, mentors, and like you said, and look, I think there's always something you can learn from bad managers too. Like, we've all had that. So
Mhm,
what
mhm.
what happened that you didn't like, and make sure you don't make the same mistake.
The other thing managers should connect with their team and learn about their team and foster them. But as a young manager or a budding manager to be, there's no reason why you can't talk and create a relationship with your current manager and say, I want to make sure that we have a good working relationship. So what is it that I can do and we can do together to, encourage my understanding of what to expect, what you expect from me, and how I can deliver on that, and how to learn a little bit more about me, so how you can take advantage of some of the things that I'm really good at. So when you take an interest like that, and what are they going to say? No, I can't be bothered. Slowly, that can develop into something. It's important for managers to build trusting relationships. And so if your manager isn't helping you do that, you can do that. But as a new
Yeah.
manager, start to get to know your staff a little bit better. I'm not asking you to inquire about them so much, but when you hear something in passing, like you heard at the beginning that I have 3 children. So it you get a sense of who I am. And so you write that down and say, okay, that person has 3 children, or that person really loves ballet. Where are we connecting? Where are points where we might connect together? And just, add those up. Over time, you will learn more and more about your team and create that connection.
Um, Hilda, I want to go back to this is going to be kind of a callback to our first question and conversation because I wrote this down and I really want to make sure I cover it.
Sure.
You talked about the people in your company that you built
Mhm.
and that you were finding the right people and how, everyone, if you have interviews, ask about if they've been offered water. And it seems like a really friendly, nice, kind culture.
Mhm.
Now, we know that there's an aspect of constructive conflict that is important if you want to move things forward.
Yeah.
So, how do you make sure that you have both?
Okay. So uh, people seem to think that, well, if you're friends, how do you talk to people?
Right.
And I think as a manager, you have to strike the right balance. So your question's a really good one, and it's really hard for people to figure out for themselves, but you have to create that right balance. And I think I learned that very early in my career as a manager. I thought, so what is a manager and what kind of manager do I want to be? And, rev up was not a concept back in those days. And I thought, okay, I want to be fair. I want to be honest. I want to be known for my respect and integrity. And I want people to understand when I make a decision based on a neutral perspective. If somebody came to me with the exact same situation, the exact same scenario, what would I do? Okay, so that's one thing. But sometimes people are not performing. So if you have created a trusting relationship where they understand you're not a friend, you are a nurturer. And in doing so, you also need to have constructive discussions. I do a thing called uh, building having difficult conversations with confidence. And I think people tend to avoid things because
Mhm.
of friendship or a fear of what they're going to say. So my tip and strategy is have the courage to have those difficult conversations. Learn to start early to have those conversations. And the number one tip in difficult conversations is start from a place of neutrality. Never make the assumption what's going on. I'll give the example of lateness. Somebody's late 3 or 4 times, and you've got to put a stop to that. You've got to set the expectation. You bring them into your office and then state it factually. Don't say, you're being tardy and this is not acceptable, right? You say, I've noticed in the last 2 weeks you've been late 3 times. What can you tell me what's happening? So it's very neutral, and then you listen. And if your heart's already palpitating, thinking about what are they going to say, you figure out what that first statement is. If you treat people with respect and you create the situation where you're looking for a mutual decision on what needs to be done, that will create a more respectful relationship, right? But yeah, people want to avoid it, and people should not avoid it. Um,
Yeah, it's important.
and when you create a trusting relationship, you will find those difficult conversations are less frequent because people will give you the benefit of the doubt, and the severity of it escalating will also be dampened because of the trusting relationship. But if a situation gets out of hand and people are raising their voices, what you can say is, I hear you. I hear you're upset. Um, but let's step back a second. Let's maybe we need to take time and reconvene tomorrow. Or what what is causing this upset? Because this should only be a conversation, but I can hear that you're upset, right? You try to de escalate and you try not to escalate the situation yourself. So your goal is always to try to create a place of neutrality for open discussion, to de escalate situations, or to pause. And whenever you have discussions, if you say you're going to talk about it later, like think about it, because sometimes you don't know the answer, and that's okay.
Mhm.
Say you don't know the answer. Say, I have to check because I want to make sure that that I don't want to say yes and find out that there's something I didn't think about. So let me get back to you maybe tomorrow or the day after tomorrow, and then do your homework. So I've given you some tips and strategies on those difficult situations.
Thank you for that. I think that's helpful because we can talk about all the nice and good. And look, I've been at Ellevate for 10 years. Like some of the people in my team are some of my best friends. Like I've known them for years. And I do agree with you that because we have that level of trust, the difficult conversations are so much easier.
Hmm. Hmm.
But we know we have to have them and we have them.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And people
Well,
need to
thank you,
realize it's
Hilda.
part of business, right? It's not all
Right.
just friendship, but you can learn to be respectful and be have a friendship, but understand there's the business side to it. But I think when
Yeah.
it becomes too much friendship, then that makes it difficult, and that you've crossed the line as a professional and as a manager. So you need to make sure you have that right balance.
Yeah, I'm guilty of crossing the line in that sense. I have really good friends in Elevate, and look, sometimes it happens because you start in one point and then you grow into different roles or
Yeah.
whatever it is. What I do in my suggestion for anyone who finds themselves in something in a situation like mine, for example,
Hmm.
is I'm very clear when
Yeah.
I'm in
Yeah.
friend mode and when I'm in work mode.
Yeah.
And they and my friends slash coworkers know this. Like I will literally say, okay, I have my friend hat on.
Yep.
And that's that. We don't talk work. Work does not even, nope. And if someone brings up work, I shut it down because I'm in my friend hat.
Yeah.
But if I'm in my work hat,
Okay.
it's very different.
Yeah. And I think that's all about developing relationships. It really is. It really is.
Well, thank you, Hilda. This was fun.
Well, you're welcome.
We're going to end with our little lightning round. So, does pineapple belong on pizza?
Definitely. I love the sweetness to go with the everything.
Yeah, I'm with you. I like it. If you could time travel, where is the first place you would go?
Actually, the future. I
Really?
it's exciting. What can happen? Like I'm not going to be here forever, and I'd like to know what the future really looks like. All this technology and the human side of things, I hope will get better, because I'm a spearheader of that. But yes, the future.
Look, all of y'all who say the future when I ask this question are some of the bravest people I know because I would be terrified to see that we just burned the place down.
Oh, I believe in humankind. I think we'll do better than that.
Thank you for having that belief, and I will keep the cynicism on my end. If you could have any superpower, what would it be?
Wow. This is a weird one, but I would love the power of being able to grant confidence to everybody in the world.
Oh, that's a great one. And one I've never heard, so I like it. If your house caught on fire, what's the first object you would run to save?
When I was younger, there would have been very possessive things, which I've long forgotten. But I wouldn't bring anything. I would bring my family. I would just make sure we're all safe because anything is not that valuable as your life and anything
Yeah,
you can replace. And I think your memories up here in your brain, which is what I'm pointing to, is what will sustain anything that you should have brought out with you.
I like that. Most used app on your phone.
Fitbit.
Really?
I do it first thing in the morning, last thing at night. I like to know how many steps I've taken and how well my sleep was. Yeah, Fitbit. And I'm not on premium. I'm too cheap to order premium, but yeah, it's my motivator friend. Remember, I'm a prestige, the language of excellence, continuously trying to improve myself.
I love it. I wonder what I am. Hmm. And finally, what's one thought you'd want to leave with our listeners?
Believe in yourself. You have the power to continuously improve who you are, but you're pretty good. Find who you are, discover that, rev up that potential in yourself, but truly believe in yourself. We all have a story, and they are such wonderful stories.
I love that. Thank you so much for that.
Oh, you're welcome.
It's been a pleasure, Hilda.
Thank you. I've really enjoyed being on the show, and thank you very much for inviting me and allowing me to share some of my thoughts on how people can really be so much better and confident in who they are.
And we're back. Hope you enjoyed the conversation with Hilda. She's really nice and just really fun to talk to.
So good. And Maricella was actually on her podcast,
It
Rev
was.
Up Your Potential, which if you want to listen to Maricella's take on things flipped around, definitely be sure to tune into that after you finish this podcast because we're going to get to some amazing history makers in a second.
Yeah, it was an honor being on Hilda's podcast. It was great to be able to continue the conversation. So it was so fun. We did our podcast first, and then a few weeks later, we taped Hilda's podcast. So it was fun because I had that background, and like I said, I've gotten to know her, and it was an interesting turn of the tables where I could talk about my experience. And
Yeah, we've done a few of those in the past few months. I don't know if they've all come out yet, but a few of our podcast guests who you've then gone on to be on their podcast did
yeah,
like a little podcast swap.
there's been some. I have to work on being better about sharing those things with everyone else. But that's neither here nor there. Let's actually go to something that our listeners might be more interested in hearing, which is our history makers for the week.
Indeed. So we're starting off with Carolyn Scruggs, who became the first Black woman to lead the Maryland Department of Public Safety and Corrections.
That's really exciting. Irma Carrillo Ramirez was nominated to become the first Latina to serve on the 5th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals.
Kate McSweeney Pishotti became the first woman to serve as public safety director for Columbus, Ohio.
Manika Batra became the first Indian woman to win a medal in the ITTF ATTU Asian Cup. I have no idea what that is.
That is table tennis, which
Oh,
is, yeah, commonly known as ping pong, which is the coolest sport ever. Like, you want to talk about when you think that you're really good at ping pong because you're like, playing it with your friends, whatever, and then you watch actual professionals play it, and you're like, oh my god.
let's just get something clear. I would have never thought I was good at ping pong.
That actually same. I'm horrible at ping pong.
Like,
But like you'll get like one good, serve in and whatever, like I'm the queen. And
nah,
then you watch them and it is like the fiercest because it's so much smaller and like smaller scale than tennis. So like it's so fast and they're just like and I'm like, oh my God.
it's insane.
It's so huge props to people who play table tennis professionally. It's so cool.
And huge props then to Monica Batra.
Yes. Jan Williams became the first woman commander of American Legion Post 8.
And last but not least, Jennifer DeLanso became the first woman chief of police for Middle Township, New Jersey.
Yay!
Congratulations to our history makers.
Congratulations.
And if you want to hear more about our history makers, Megan will be talking to some of them that we've celebrated in the past year. And she will be talking to them on our special second episode that drops on Friday.
That'll be fun. So tune in.
And next week, I hope you can tune in for my conversation with Liz Ryan. She's the founder and CEO of Human Workplace, where she's reinventing work with a human voice. You know, that's one of my favorite topics, making workplaces more human. So definitely have a great conversation with Liz. She is the author of a few books, Reinvention Roadmap, Righteous Recruiting, and Red Blooded HR. So tune in next week for my conversation with Liz.
See you then.
Bye.
Ellevate Network drives real results for ambitious women trying to break through the glass ceiling and achieve success in their careers. We offer a platform full of resources and opportunities for growth, all designed to help you unlock your potential. With Ellevate's support, you can take the first step toward achieving your professional goals. With a supportive community and tangible resources at your fingertips, you're only one step away from reaching your fullest potential. Join us today and take advantage of our 30-day free trial to start building the career of your dreams. Thanks so much for listening to the Ellevate podcast. If you like what you hear, you can subscribe, give us 5 stars, and share your review. You can learn all about Ellevate membership and all the great things that Ellevate Network is doing at our website, www.ellevatenetwork.com. That's ELLEVATE network.com. And special thanks to our producer, Catherine Heller. She rocks. Thanks so much, and join us next week.